Some cases are never solved and will haunt us forever. Today, we'll dive into 5 of the most famous unsolved cases in recent history. Each one is a puzzle and has captured the attention of millions worldwide. The Zodiac Killer, Northern California's elusive serial murderer. Between the late 1960s and early 1970s, Northern California was gripped by fear as the Zodiac Killer stalked the region. Unlike most killers, he didn't just commit crimes. He taunted law enforcement and the public, sending letters filled with cryptic codes, threats, and declarations of his crimes to newspapers and police departments. The first confirmed attacks began in December 1968, when David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, a teenage couple, were shot and killed on Lake Herman Road near Vallejo. Just months later, in July 1969, Delene Ferrin and Michael Mago were attacked in a parking lot, shot at close range. Ferrin died at the scene, but Mago survived, providing one of the first eyewitness accounts of the killer. Within days of the Vallejo shootings, the Zodiac began communicating directly with the press. He sent letters to the San Francisco Chronicle, the Examiner, and the Post, boasting of his killings and including a series of cryptic ciphers. One, known as the 408-character cipher, challenged readers to decode a hidden message, which he claimed would reveal his identity. When portions were solved, the message described his pleasure in killing and his desire to instill fear. Despite surviving victims and eyewitness accounts, the Zodiac's identity remained elusive. He used multiple disguises, approached his victims at night or in isolated areas, and vanished without leaving fingerprints or definitive DNA evidence. In one case, a taxi driver reported picking up a suspicious man, but by the time police arrived, he had disappeared. The Zodiac seemed to plan his attacks to evade capture, moving quickly between locations. Over the years, numerous suspects were examined. People like Arthur Lee Allen were considered strong candidates, with circumstantial evidence, handwriting similarities, and prior criminal behavior pointing toward them. Yet nothing was conclusive.
I'm not the Zodiac. And if I was, I certainly wouldn't tell you.
Madeleine McCann, the disappearance that shook the world. On May 3, 2007, in the quiet resort town of Praia da Luz, Portugal, 3-year-old Madeleine McCann vanished without a trace. She was on holiday with her parents, Kate and Jerry, and her 2 younger siblings at the Ocean Club Resort. That evening, her parents went to a nearby restaurant for dinner with friends, leaving Madeleine and her siblings asleep in apartment 5A. They checked on the children regularly, every 30 minutes or so. But at 10 p.m., the routine check turned into a nightmare. Kate returned to the apartment and found Madeleine's bed empty. The window was slightly open, and panic set in immediately. Madeleine was gone. Resort staff and local police launched an immediate search, scouring the streets, nearby buildings, and surrounding areas. Portuguese authorities investigated the apartment, and while some reports mentioned traces of blood, nothing definitive was confirmed. Surveillance cameras near the resort recorded movement outside, but no clear images of a suspect emerged. Though critics later claimed the scene was contaminated, traces of blood were reportedly found in Madeleine's bed and wardrobe, but tests were inconclusive. Witnesses were interviewed, including other tourists, resort staff, and anyone seen in the area that evening. The case gained global media attention within days. Public appeals, television coverage, and newspaper campaigns spread Madeleine's image worldwide. In 2008, Scotland Yard launched Operation Paget, reviewing claims that Kate and Jerry McCann had been involved in their daughter's disappearance. After 2 years, Operation Paget concluded there was no evidence to implicate the parents. In 2011, the UK launched Operation Grange, a dedicated review of the case led by experienced detectives. This marked the start of a new phase of investigation. Suspects were cross-checked against European criminal databases, focusing on known child sex offenders in the area at the time. Over the years, several potential suspects emerged. Local men who had suspicious behavior at the resort. Known pedophiles who traveled in the Algarve region during the summer of 2007. Individuals with prior convictions for child abduction or sexual offenses. In 2020, German authorities announced that a new suspect, Christian B., a convicted pedophile, was linked to the case through circumstantial evidence, but no charges were filed. JonBenét Ramsey, the little girl found in her basement. On December 25th, 1996. 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey disappeared from her family home in Boulder, Colorado. She was the daughter of John and Patsy Ramsey, a prominent couple in their community, and her sudden vanishing would ignite one of the most controversial and enduring investigations in American history.
Police! We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please. Explain to me what's going on, okay?
Hello, I'm Patsy Ramsey. Daddy's not here, but this is JonBenét. She's 4,
The morning
Mark
after
is
Christmas,
7.
Patsy
We'd like to
Ramsey
welcome you
called the
to our
police
home
after
and
finding
wish
a
you
ransom
very
note
Merry
demanding
Christmas.
$118,000 for JonBenét's safe return. The note was unusually long, written on paper from inside the house, and oddly specific in its demand, close to John Ramsey's annual bonus. Investigators immediately questioned whether it was the work of a stranger or someone with intimate knowledge of the household. When officers arrived, the horror became clear. JonBenét's body lay in the basement, wrapped in a blanket. She had suffered head trauma and strangulation, and the crime scene was chaotic. From that moment, the investigation was marked by confusion, scrutiny, and controversy. The ransom note itself became a central focus. Linguistic and handwriting experts debated its origin, but no definitive conclusions emerged. Some investigators focused on the intruder theory, suggesting a stranger had entered the home, killed JonBenét, and staged the scene. Others considered the possibility of family involvement, fueled by the bizarre nature of the note and the location of the body. DNA testing in later years would exclude the Ramseys from the key forensic evidence, but suspicion never fully disappeared in public discourse. Several individuals were investigated over the years. Maura Murray, the vanishing on Route 112. On February 9, 2004, 21-year-old Maura Murray, a nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, vanished without a trace. Maura had informed professors and a work supervisor that she was taking a week off due to a family emergency, a fabricated excuse that would later raise questions about her intentions. On the day of her disappearance, she packed her belongings into her black satin Ion, withdrew money from her bank, and sent cryptic emails suggesting she was leaving town temporarily. None of her communications revealed a concrete plan, but everything indicated she was deliberately leaving her familiar life behind. That evening, Maura began driving north toward New Hampshire. Around 7:30 p.m., near Route 112 in Haverhill, she lost control of her car and crashed into a snowbank along the roadside. Witnesses, including a passing motorist and a truck driver, reported seeing her exit the vehicle. One witness described Maura walking around the car and appearing to call for help. She then disappeared into the nearby woods. Emergency services were called, and a search began immediately, but Maura was never found. Investigators combed the area, tracking footprints in the snow, scanning the tree line, and canvassing nearby properties. Despite multiple searches and the involvement of police, rescue teams, and volunteers, no definitive trace of her was discovered. The investigation quickly expanded beyond the immediate crash site. Police examined Maura's personal life, her financial records, and her social connections. They discovered she had previously engaged in minor thefts, had struggled with anxiety, and had a history of fabricating small emergencies. This led some to their eyes that Maura had planned to disappear voluntarily. Others argued that she had fallen victim to foul play, possibly at the hands of someone lurking near the remote road. Over the years, multiple leads were pursued. Witnesses reported seeing a young woman matching Maura's description in towns miles away from the crash site. Tips suggested she might have been picked up by a stranger, hitchhiked, or even suffered an accidental injury in the wilderness. Law enforcement investigated known predators in the area at the time, yet no suspect could be definitively linked to her disappearance. Some theorists suggest she may have been abducted by someone who had been watching her movements, while others maintain she voluntarily vanished to start a new life. Yet, decades later, no evidence supports either conclusion definitively. Maura Murray remains missing, and the case officially remains open. The Delphi murders, the teens taken on the Monon High Bridge Trail. On the morning of February 13, 2017, two best friends, Libby German, 13, and Abby Williams, 14, set out for a walk along the Monon High Bridge Trail in Delphi, Indiana. It was a quiet, snowy morning. By the afternoon, the girls had been murdered, sending shockwave through the small town. The discovery of the crime was chilling. Libby and Abby's bodies were found near the trail, where they had been walking just hours earlier. Both had suffered fatal injuries, and the case immediately became a high-priority investigation for the Indiana State Police. Early on, authorities realized they were dealing with a suspect who was calculated, careful, and familiar with the area. The crime scene offered few clues, but one piece of evidence would become key. Libby had recorded a short video on her phone of a man walking behind them. The image was grainy, but it captured the suspect's hoodie and posture. Tips poured in from across the country as the case gained national and international attention. The FBI assisted with forensic analysis, while state and local police coordinated door-to-door inquiries. Investigators believe the suspect likely knew the area and planned his movements carefully, which allowed him to escape immediate capture. These cases remind us that evil can be patient, cunning, and invisible, and the story is never truly over.